Today we're going to cover something called epistemology. Epistemology is the study of knowledge. And we're also going to cover Phyrro, who was a skeptic. A skeptic is somebody who doubts knowledge. We're going to start off with this quote from Bertrand Russell, which is an interesting idea. I think you'll find it true. The whole problem with the world is that fools and fanatics are always so certain of themselves, and wiser people are so full of doubts. What that's saying is, do we really know as much as we think we know? A lot of times people are very loud that they know the answer to something, but maybe they're certain, and maybe they, in Bertrand Russell's opinion, are foolish to be so certain. This is going back to the Socrates concept of I'm the smartest because I know nothing. How many of these do you know to be true? There's going to be a series of statements. There's going to be 10, I believe. And just write down the numbers of the ones that you think are true. Number 1, the Chevy Nova, that's a car, sold poorly in South America when it was first introduced because in Spanish, no means no go. NASA spent millions of dollars developing an astronaut pen which would work in outer space, while the Soviets solved the same problem by simply using pencils. Do you think this one is true? There might be more than one that's true. Write as many down that you think are actually accurate, that you believe to be accurate. Slightly overpaying a traffic ticket will keep points off your driving record. That's number 3. Do you think that's true? Number 4, hair and fingernails continue to grow after you die. Number 5, you can pop popcorn by placing it between certain brands of activated cell phones. Is that true? Number 6, the number of people alive today is greater than the number of people who have ever died. Number 7, is this true? Hair grows back thicker or darker or more whiskery after it's shaved. Is that true? Number 8, red cars get more speeding tickets than non-red cars. Is that accurate? 2 more. Number 9, Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Dock Ellis once threw a no-hitter while under the influence of LSD. LSD is a drug, a mind-hallucinating drug of the 60s. And number 10, we only use 10% of our brains. Do you think that one's true? So there's 10 total. How many of them, which ones did you think were true? Oh, no, there's 11. A natural sedative in Turkey, tryptophan, is what makes you so sleepy after Thanksgiving dinner. Do you think that's true? Would you believe that only one of those statements is actually true? And that is Dock Ellis, the one about the pitcher throwing the no-hitter. The story goes he wasn't going to play that day, and he took a drug the night before or that day, and he showed up, and he was all under the influence. The ironic thing, if you know a baseball box score, they'll put the last name of the player and then the first initial of the player in the box score. And so on the day he pitched, of course, his last name is Ellis and his first initial is D. And that's a true story. That's him with his hair curlers. So the problem is, I bet a lot of you thought that, the turkey tryptophan drug or our hair growing whiskery after we cut it. There's a lot of things we believe in. Why do we believe them? I mean, historically, here are a couple of ads. Everybody knows on the left that, doctors smoke Camel cigarettes. Back then, you would have people doing cigarette advertising on TV. Doctors would, endorsing them. And on the right, everybody knows for a better start in life, start your baby with Coca-Cola. Sugary water is exactly what we need. Different time periods in history, people believe different things. Epistemology is really studying, do we know what we think we know? Thinking is kind of hard. Now, I'm not saying everybody's a moron, but most people are. We don't think clearly, we don't think logically. And it's because people just act out, where we are reactive minds rather than reflective minds. Which means we react to things, we don't ponder it, we don't think on it. Epistemology tries to force us to think on things. Epistemology asks a number of questions that we will deal with this year. What is knowledge? How is knowledge acquired? And how can you know anything at all? And usually at this point I will say, okay, raise your hand and tell me something you know for certain. And kids will give me math questions, 2 plus 2 is 4, and they could say the sky is blue even though it's not, that's the reflection. ultimately, there's not a lot of things that we know for certain. Somebody say, well, my name is Tony. Well, that was the name you were given. There were some syllables that we've assigned to you. That's your name, quote unquote. The idea in epistemology is, what do you really know for certain? Are there things we know for certain that are really just our opinions? When you really examine the things you feel strongly about, this is what Socrates would do, to see if they really make sense. So a distinction between fact and opinion, objective and subjective. Objective is your math teacher. They give you a problem. It's right or wrong, and you get the answer. Subjective is based more on opinions and judgments. In other words, you do an essay for English class, the teacher gave you a C, you thought it was an A, she's right because she's the teacher, but really, it's just an opinion. A different teacher maybe gives it a different grade. In general, most people base everything on subjective things. Objective things are things we can measure. If you want to say who's taller, we can measure that. But if we want to say who's smarter, we could give a test that measures that. But the intangible things are usually just based on opinion. Which is more accurate? If you look, you've got truth, knowledge, and belief. Objective claims. Those are the claims that are measurable, are the ones that are accurate. There's very few things that are measurable, which means everything else that people know or think they know is just opinion. So a little quiz, a few questions here. Number one, in the past 20 years, violence in schools has A, increased, B, remained the same, C, decreased. Past 20 years, violence in schools increased, remained the same, decreased. Question number two, very similar. In the past 20 years, violent crime in America. A, increased, B, remained the same, C, decreased. The answer to those questions was actually they're both decreased. Now, if you watch the news, depending on what network you watch, the individual stories really make us look at the world in a certain way. You could watch Fox and think the world is one way, and watch CNN or almost any other network and think the world is different. Our opinions are shaped by the news. The news is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful thing in affecting how people think. Next question. What is the chance of a coin coming up heads on a single flip? You flip a coin one time, heads or tails, what's the chance? Number 5, what is the chance of a coin coming up if you got 3 heads in a row? So you flipped it 3 times in a row, you got heads. The 4th time, what's the chances? And number 6, what is the chance of getting heads if you got heads 10 times in a row? What would be the chance on that 11th time? Some people are taking off their shoes to get higher counting numbers. The answer to all of them is 50%. We often use flawed logic. We think of things, you know what, if you got 10 in a row, the chances of getting 11th are probably pretty small if you did it in the beginning. In other words, if you said, what are the chances 11 times in a row this is going to happen? But at any coin flip, it's always 50-50. Our logic, our way of thinking is flawed often. The gambler's fallacy. And you could also use this as a basketball player. The gambler's been winning at blackjack. Keep playing, he's hot. In other words, if you made 5 straight shots, you should give the ball to me because I'm going to make another. Or you could look at it differently. I've been losing at blackjack. Keep playing, I'm due. In other words, if I've missed 10 straight shots and I'm the best shooter, give me the ball. The chances of it going in are high on the 11th time. These are ways that we just think in an incorrect manner. Describe what you see. Number 8, write down what you see. What does it say? Number 9, what do you see on this one? So, the answers. Number 7, there are 3 partial circles. There is no triangle. Number 8, Paris in the spring. The appears there twice. You can rewind the video if you like. Our minds just disconnect and don't see the second the. And some people see faces, some people see vases. It's both. We often misperceive the world. The world is existing outside of our minds. We take in the world with our senses, but we often misperceive them. Our senses might lie to us. So, Phyrro Ellis, he is our philosopher of the day. He's the father of skepticism. Somebody who is a skeptic a lot of times doesn't believe something. By suspending judgment, by confining oneself to objects as they appear, and by asserting nothing definite as to how they really are, one can escape the perplexities of life and attain an imperturbable peace of mind. Now, there's a lot of heavy words in here, but to break it down, to suspend judgment, that means to not jump to conclusions. By confining oneself to objects as they appear, in other words, just looking at the situation, not adding to it with a big story in our mind. By asserting nothing definite, meaning not jumping to conclusions, then we can escape the perplexities of life, we can make life a lot easier, and we can attain an imperturbable peace of mind. We can get a very calm mindset. If we just wouldn't jump to assumptions and jump to conclusions about everything. If we just sort of were a little more chill on what we think we knew, we wouldn't be as stressed. That's the best way I could break down this heavy quote. So Phyrro, Greek philosopher, he was a skeptic. Now, he actually went to India. He was with Alexander the Great, who had traveled the world. And in India, he interacted, or he must have interacted with some philosophical schools, because his views definitely take some things from Buddhism and Hinduism. And he himself, as a philosopher, was so highly valued, they passed a law that said he never had to pay taxes again. I'm waiting for that for philosophy teachers. So what is skepticism? It taught that every object of knowledge involves uncertainty. There is nothing you can know for certain. It's impossible ever to have a complete certainty of the truth. Well, you know the sun's going to rise tomorrow. Do you really? I mean, it has risen a lot of times in a row. I would agree with that. But do we know for certain anything? The impossibility of knowledge, the impossibility of truth, should cause the wise person to avoid stress about life. If we don't know if the thing that just happened was good or bad, why are we flipping out about it? When you think about it, aren't most of your daily choices just based on a belief in your head of what is the right thing to do? All day long, we're like little calculators. Is it worth going to Subway? Am I going to have time to do that? Should I send her a text? Should I blow off homework again? All day long, we're making little choices of whether or not something is worth it for us. But can we ever know for certain what's the right thing to do? I mean, you could do the homework or not do the homework. You could apply for the job or not apply for the job. You could ask the girl out or not ask the girl out. How do we ever know when we're making the right choice? Aren't our beliefs about what we want life to do, aren't they really just opinions that a lot of times are wrong? Maybe you really, really want to get into this college and you don't. Do you know for certain that's bad news? Is it possible that the not getting what you want turns into a tremendous stroke of luck? Is there no way to ever know anything for sure? Why worry? We tend to worry because we jump to conclusions rather than in remaining a little less in our own heads. We just accept things as they are. The warrior pose, for those of you who know yoga. Am I doing this right? Is everyone looking at me? I'm not going to get into the boobs one, but in regards to our minds are always at work. The Indian philosophy calls them vritti, the ways of the mind. They talk about we have a monkey mind, never calm, just bouncing around like a monkey. And that's the idea. Most people worry all of the time. Mickey Rivers was a baseball player for the Yankees. He was an odd guy. And this quote I just found amazing quote. Ain't no sense in worrying about things you got control over, because if you've got control over them, ain't no sense in worrying. And ain't no sense in worrying about the things you don't got control of, because if you don't got control over them, ain't no sense in worrying. When you really think about it, there is a wisdom there. Because the things we worry most about, usually, we can't control them. And if we could control it, well then control it, fix it, no reason to worry. So, one of Phyrro's students said that he had reached a godlike state of calm, having escaped servitude to mere opinion. Godlike state of calm, I think people understand. Just being relaxed, no worries, no stress. How did he do that? He had escaped servitude meaning slavery, to opinion. We always care about people's opinions. We care about our own opinions. We care about all of these things that he says you can't know for certain. Epistemology, once again, you cannot know anything for certain. Phyrro said life, if you really think about it, and this is depressing because a lot of you will connect with this, life is made up of people struggling and fighting for what they want, for what they desire, foolishly thinking that some things are better than others, but they're doing this, it's a useless struggle against ourselves about nothing. People want money, they say, but really we don't want money, we want peace of mind. Peace of mind can be achieved when we have lots of money. Peace of mind can be achieved when we're happy and we're not worrying about the rent. But money itself is just paper. People suppose that the thing that just happened, the thing that's in their mind that they expect to happen, they think if it doesn't happen, it's bad, and if it does happen, it's good. That's a foolish way of thinking, according to Phyrro. Ataraxia. Nothing in itself is true or false. It only appears so because of our opinions. Nothing in itself is good or evil. It's only opinions, social norms that make it so. In other words, murder, most people would say, killing somebody, most people would say, is bad. It's wrong. It's illegal. And it is. Unless you've got a uniform on with our flag on it, and then you get medals. The idea of laws and customs and opinions is what ultimately makes us believe things are good or bad, but they're not good and bad in themselves. We can't really predict the future. I can't. Maybe you can. We really don't know how things are going to work out. If you're a wise person like Phyrro was, you realize this, and you stop preferring one course of action over another. In other words, you stop having preferences. You just accept life as it comes. And the result, you would be freedom from worry, and you would achieve apathy, which is what ataraxia is. I say apathy, and a lot of people don't like that word. Apathy is not caring. And this is what it's saying, but not caring in a negative sense, just not having worries. Preference and desire. Now, this is something that he most likely got from Buddhism, but all of our action that we do is based on our preferences. We choose to do one thing over another. I want to go to McDonald's rather than Burger King. That's a preference. Phyrro said we should kind of hold back on our preferences, and we should realize no matter what we choose, in reality, we don't know if one way is better than the other. Maybe McDonald's is better than Burger King. Not the best example now that I'm into it. Maybe McDonald's is better than Burger King, but you know what? I don't know necessarily if today I made the right choice. So why worry about it? He said we need to reject desires. Desires are things we want. Desires are thinking we need life to go a certain way. If we stop needing life to go a certain way, if we stop having the desire to be the best or to get the girl or to get the job, I'm not saying not to get girls and jobs, I'm saying the desire itself, according to Phyrro, is where we ruin our calmness, where we ruin our tranquility, where we ruin our peace of mind. The third Zen patriarch, the great way is easy for one with no preferences. If I say I'm bringing ice cream or donuts tomorrow, you're getting a picture in your head if you like donuts, and then I show up with a bunch of jelly donuts that nobody likes, you're going to be let down versus if I just randomly brought in some jelly donuts. We get preferences. We get expectations. Phyrro tried to point out, having a thought in your minds, a model of how things have to go, is foolish because we'll never know anything for certain. So what's the proper way of life? He said that we need to accept that we don't know how life is going to turn out, and then we'll be calm. When you think of anxiety that people have, people are anxious because they don't know what's going to happen. But we never know what's going to happen. He said to embrace that. If we remove the preference of what life has to do, and we remove the desire of what we want to have happen next, we can just relax with whatever life throws at us. It really is not possible for us to ever truly know if we're making the right or wrong decision on anything. But if we remove all of this worry, then we can actually enjoy life rather than regretting every choice we make. we'll finish off with why worry? If you've done the very best you can, worrying won't make it any better. I worry about many things, but not about water over the dam, meaning things that are past. And usually at the end of the PowerPoint, kids start thinking about, yeah, but you don't understand. I have real things to worry about. Write a journal.